Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for providing us with the warm beverage, the tea. And it seems as if we have another particular item here on the table. Anybody know the name of these? Lady fingers. When and how did they get those names? Would you marry a woman who had fingers that look like this? Maybe you would. It's just a question. We don't discriminate. Allahu Akbar. Perfect answer. But the question is, would you? If there's lotion, you wouldn't mind her fingers being this wide and nudgy like that? Huh? How did this cookie become known as lady fingers? Anybody know? Historically, who's the first one to coin the term? Of course. The British. White women. Okay, all right. Anybody else? Tell you, what else is called lady fingers from that which people consume and eat? Anybody know? This is an easy one. Easier than the cookies. Talking about culture now, and English language, English culture. La. Twinkies, good guess. You marry a woman whose fingers look like Twinkies? Definitely, Brian. MashaAllah. We want to write that down. Twinkie fingers. Tabarakallah. So you? Nobody? Okra. You never heard? Go back to Sheikh. Google. History. I'm disappointed in you, Harun. Let down. Disappointed. Okra is famous in many cultures, in the Middle East and others.
Yes.
What do you got?
Yes, okra is sometimes called ladyfingers. The name ladyfingers is used in some English-speaking countries, especially outside of the United States. Explanation: okra. The name okra comes from West Africa.
West Africa. All right. West Africa. Shout out. On to the motherland. All right. Tell you the Gold Coast, West Africa. All right. Okay. A lot of history with regards to different vegetables and stews. And if you read your American history, you'll be at the impact of West African cuisine in the colonial era, especially coming from a place like Philadelphia or Delaware or Boston. But that's for another what? It's for another discussion. Keep going.
Okra is a flowering that produces edible green seed pods.
Seed pods. Yeah. All right, tell you.
It's a staple in many cuisines.
A staple in what? Many, not just in West Africa. Many people. It's a staple vegetable. Including Cajun, Creole, Caribbean, and Indian. Those are all major contributors to the American cuisine. Major contributors.
The pods are often used in soups and stews.
The pods are also often used in soups and stews.
But can also be served whole as a side dish.
As a side dish. Keep going. That's all you got? Down south, you get some catfish, some fried okra, right? Am I making this stuff up, Meleza? You guys, huh? From one thing we learned what? 10,000 things. All right. Khair, inshallah. That's all you got?
Yep.
All right. So if you didn't benefit anything from the class, tafsir, hadith, Ibn al-Qayyim, Bayquniya, he's a this, he was that, he was at least you can say I benefited what? Something with history and culture. Now, right or wrong? Inshallah. All right, tell you. And what about the Black Pope from last week? What you got? What research did you do? 0. How many push-ups? How many laps? What about the 3 rounds? What do they represent? Guys didn't research. The Lord of heaven, hell, and of this world. He has the power and the autonomy, the ability to put you in paradise or doom you and damn you to hell. And he's also the supreme master of what? Every single country. He has been mandated by God Almighty himself to rule over. Right? And if you disagree or object, he'll press the button on the crown that sends you to the hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ's fear of us imitating the Jews and the Christians, following their ways, and how many people today, they take a scholar or an imam or some type of zaim or matbu', some king or something, as he has that power. Even if they don't go to the extreme of the layer, the triple tiered crown, but your paradise is in the hands of this sheikh or this imam of this tariqah. Okay? Or if you differ with this scholar, then you're what? You're damned to hell. The Prophet ﷺ's greatest fear of us imitating these cursed and astray people and giving this man called the Pope the power of 3 worlds, all in his mortal hand. Heaven, hell, and the political dominion as well. May Allah bless us all. All right, Tayyip. So tonight's class, Bidnillahi Ta'ala, we're talking about okra and lady fingers and the Pope. Maybe one of these after the class, if that's okay. I don't know if they're mines. Okay, I gotta check. Because where I come from, just because some sweets are sitting on your table or your bed doesn't mean that it's what. And if you open up a package and eat it, what happens, Mulazim? You may be forever in debt in a bad way. Those who know and those who don't know what? Don't know. No one said that these cookies were mine. I assumed, oh, mashallah. Next thing you know, you come in. I thought it was mine. They was on my desk. Anybody say yours? So now you got to repay me. May Allah help us all. All right, Tayyip, khayr inshallah. So tonight's lesson, to switch it up a bit, we're going to speak on fasting and the month of Ramadan to prepare ourselves and to get ourselves in gear. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, when we speak about fasting and we speak about Ramadan, when we speak about fasting within Ramadan, those are 3 separate entities. 3 separate entities. A, fasting in Rajab, Shaban, Shawwal, Friday, Saturday. Is it lawful to fast on Saturdays? Is it lawful to fast on Fridays? What are the 3 white nights or white days? Ashura, Muharram, Naam, the 6th of Shawwal. Is it lawful for a woman to fast if she's married and her husband is in town? He's home, he's not traveling. Does he have to give her permission for her to make voluntary fasts? Is it for you to break your fast? Yeah, I said, if I invite you to my aqiqah or my walima, can you say, I can't go, Sheikh, because I'm fasting? Or do you have to come? Do you have to eat? The fiqh of fasting, the virtues of fasting, the benefits of fasting. Nothing to do with what? Ramadan. It's a separate what? Separate entity. Of course, the first thing that you're going to think about when it comes to fasting is Ramadan. ولكن لا يلزم. لا إيش؟ ليس هناك تلازم. There's an abundance of fasting outside, before and after what? Ramadan. And in cases when you suffer from tunnel vision or target fixation, just Ramadan, in most cases, at best, you're going to limit your benefit from that month. At best. It's going to come, it's going to go, and in most cases, you're going to be the same Muslim as you were before, if not worse. And in most cases, your fasting is going to be not eating, not drinking, and then that's it. When you only think about playing the game, preparing for the game, physically training, rehearsing, studying, I have my trick plays, right? They are prepared and rehearsed. They're kept secret when? Before the game, right? I have my 2-minute warning drill. All of my plays are in one place for when there's a 2-minute warning. I don't have to scramble and look and talk. It's all right there. Run this, run this, run that. My zone plays. Everything is laid out when? What? Before the game. Me studying the opponent, the opposite team, their schemes, those who are healthy, their trick plays, their 2-minute warning drill. That's all prepared when? Before the game. What do we do in this scenario? What do we do if this happens? What do we do if that happens? The field, the condition of the field, rain, snow, hail, how long will the cleats be? All of that is done when? Before the game, not during the game. And the only thing that you do during the game is make adjustments, necessary adjustments, but you do not prepare while you're playing. You're not doing what you have to do rushing during the game. You're not going to win, and if you win, you're going to win sloppily. You're going to barely get by. And after the game is over, I'm the head coach. None of you are allowed to leave. We have to talk. We have to celebrate or cry together. And we have to look at the film. We have to study everything. None of you can leave for 2-3 hours. We have to review everything after the game. And the post-game in reality is also a what? What is it in reality? For the next game. So it's a never-ending cycle. So when the game comes, a few things that I have to do, a few adjustments that I have to make. And in most cases, I can start off with necessary rhythm. And I'm not playing catch up, falling behind, lagging behind. But when you just play just for the game, you don't prepare, you don't practice, you don't study, you're gonna lose. And if you win, you're gonna barely win. So that is the mental state of the Muslim. I need to be familiar with fasting before I have to fast. I need to be after I have made my obligatory fast. Everybody clear on that? So fasting is a separate entity by itself. All right. Entity number 2 is Ramadan. The month of Ramadan, its virtue, its rewards, its blessings, its sanctity and sacredness, regardless whether fasting or not. Traveling in Ramadan, a baby being born in Ramadan, someone dying in Ramadan, getting married in Ramadan, right? Just the virtue of the what? The month. At nighttime, no one is fasting anymore. They're eating and drinking. There's still a great virtue in just the month. The time itself is sacred. The month is sacred. There are Muslims who are too old to fast, and there are Muslims who are too young to fast. There are women who cannot fast. There are men who are traveling. There are people who are fighting in the lost cause who cannot fast. They still live in a blessed time. So speaking about Ramadan being mentioned in the Quran, being the month in which the Quran was revealed, being the only Quran that was mentioned by name in the Quran, etc., etc., etc. That's a separate what? Entity. Last but not least, the third and final entity is fasting in Ramadan. What are the do's and the don'ts? Taraweeh, Qiyam, Tahajjud, Suhoor. Is it permissible? Is it correct to have a schedule that says imsak, 10 minutes before the actual adhan? The adhan, for argument's sake, says 6:05 a.m. And on the prayer it says 5:55 is imsak. You have to stop eating and drinking 10 minutes before it's actually time for the adhan. Is that valid or invalid? Is that right or wrong? The fiqh of fasting in Ramadan. How many rak'at do we make? 28, 11, 13, or 40? What is the ruling on reciting the Fatiha in one breath? One breath. And reciting half a page out of the Mus'haf in 10 seconds. And making 20 rak'at of Taraweeh in 10, 15 minutes. What's the ruling on that? What is the ruling on a woman who's breastfeeding in the month of Ramadan? Does she have to feed a person for every day this is? Does she have to feed and make up, etc.? What is the ruling on breaking your fast to taking an exam, a big exam? the ruling on breaking your fast because you're a construction worker or a laborer? What is the ruling and what is the ruling? What is the ruling? Thousands of different discussions pertaining to the fiqh of fasting in the month, the virtue of fasting in the month, the rewards of fasting in the month, what breaks and violates your fast during this month. So fasting is something, Ramadan is something, fasting in Ramadan is what? Something. That's one way of us, breaking it up, in the taqsim. Another way of dividing and splitting and splicing is we look at our fast and our discussion with regards to the spiritual aspect of Ramadan and of fasting. Not the technicalities, Shafi'i, Maliki, halal, makruh, but the spiritual aspect, the internal aspect, the soul, the mind, the heart, to melt our hearts, to break our spirits, the repentance, the washing away of sins, the dhikr. And then we have a second category, which is, of course, all three categories are connected and they're all intertwined. We know this. But when we prepare things, we separate them. Like you're making a meal. A good cook, a good chef gives all of the time and attention to every ingredient as if it's the only ingredient. And you don't fall short on one ingredient because the ingredient is really good. Like making a stew. My water, I'm going to put into the water. I'm not going to use bad water just because the vegetables and the potatoes are going to be good. I'm giving all of my focus and attention on my water and my pot. What's going into the stew? Okra, mushy, soggy okra, or fresh, bright, green, crispy fingers, right? What type of potatoes are going into my stew? Tomatoes or whatever you want to put in it. Seasoning, salt, pepper, this, that, and the list goes on. Everything, every aspect of the stew, which may have 10 parts or 10 ingredients, you're going to give your what? Utmost attention to each of them separately, as if no other piece or ingredient exists. And at the end, they what? They come together. So the fiqh of Ramadan, the fiqh of fasting, nothing to do with the spiritual stuff. The iman boosters, oh, mashallah, brother, open up your heart. This is a technical fiqh discussion. Right now, we're discussing the hadiths and the aqwal, the masail pertaining to the masail of siyam. The masail of siyam. When I hear it, oh, brother, why are you talking about this in the masjid? The people aren't ready for this, brother. You should speak about Allah being in their hearts, brother. Jazakallah. There's a time for what? For that, which is not now. Now it's discussing fiqh, ahkam. Last but not least, the third and final part or tier are some new modern day discussions of fasting, which of course are directly connected to the first two, such as sighting of the moon. It's not so simple and easy as it was back in the day. People use technology, people use navigation, people use calculation for everything. Now, what is the ruling on a person eating and drinking after the prayer schedule says the adhan has come? Is it lawful for you to intentionally ignore the prayer 10 minutes before or after? Or is it haram for you to take a sip of water exactly at 6:05? It says 6:05 a.m. and it's 6, I'm running a little late. I'll stop eating and drinking at 6:10. Or do I have to stop exactly at the dot? It's no longer just looking in the sky, but you're down to the actual what? Not minutes, seconds. 6:04 and 58 seconds. One last sip. What's the ruling on that? We have digital clocks now, right? And there's so many other things as well with regards to a new Muslim. They become Muslim, but they can't fast yet. A new Muslim, they're hiding their Islam from their parents. Their parents offer them breakfast or lunch. Can they not eat? Do they have to eat? What are some modern day rulings and modern day discussions and dynamics of fasting and of the month of Ramadan? Khairan inshaAllah ta'ala. So before we get started, what I want to share with you, I want to briefly look into this article from Wikipedia with regards to fasting. from a non-Muslim, non-Islamic, non-spiritual perspective, okay? It says fasting is the act of refraining from eating and sometimes drinking. However, from a purely psychological or physiological context, fasting may refer to the metabolic status of a person who has not eaten overnight before breakfast, or to the metabolic state achieved after complete digestion and absorption of a meal. Metabolic changes in the fast beginning after absorption of a meal, typically 3 to 5 hours after eating. A diagnostic fast refers to prolonged fasting from 1 to 100 hours, depending on age, conducted under observation, etc. Medical fast. You can't eat before this surgery. You can't eat if you're going into labor. So technically the woman is what? Fasting. You can only have ice chips, right? Right on. In the hospital, your wife is hungry. How is she supposed to push out a baby with no food and no energy? But they say you can't eat. You can drink, but you can't eat. You can only drink a little, but you can't drink a lot. That's technically a type of what? A type of fasting. You go in for some type of test, or diabetes, or some type of experiment that they're doing on you, and they want you to fast for them to see certain things within you, right? Or to take the medicine on an empty stomach. Moving forward, medical procedure or checkup, like we just mentioned. Intermittent, all right? All right, so we have health effects. What does fasting do to your health, good or bad? Then we have the medical application, good or bad. Fasting is almost always practiced prior to surgery or other procedures that require general anesthesia because of the risk of, etc. Mental health. In one review, fasting improves alertness, mood, and subjective feeling of well-being, possibly improving overall symptoms of depression. Allahu Akbar. Think about that. Non-Muslims made a study, and some of them discovered that when people refrained from eating and drinking for some time, it had a general what? Positive impact on their mood, their vibe. Someone is down and out and blue and sad, or someone is a little foggy versus them being alert, sharp. Stop and think about it before iftar. How do you feel? You feel a little weak, right? But think about your mind and your attention. Are you alert before iftar? Just think about it. Maybe in the middle of the day, you may be, but an hour, 30 minutes, 5 minutes before iftar, in most cases, how's your mind? No. You're reading the Quran, you're making dua, you're preparing your food. We're going to break fast at. Your mind is what? It's there and extremely conscious of time. Moving forward, boosting cognitive performance. That's a long question with regards to mental health. Weight loss. How many of us suffer from weight issues? I'm skinny. I'm bony. I'm frail. I don't like, I think I'm skinny. I need to gain some weight. I need to take some protein. I need to have muscles. I need to be taller and bigger and stronger, right? Or I'm too big. I'm obese. Or, without no political terms, I'm fat. I've been fat my whole life. They made fun of me, bullied me in school, right? People made fun of me my whole entire life. So I'm extremely insecure and self-conscious about my fat. And I'm tired of being fat, right? Or a person isn't fat and obese, but they feel that they are. Or I wish this was smaller and this was bigger and this was like this and like that. So many people suffer from lack of body positivity. Men and women. And of course, it's 10 times worse when we talk about movies, talk about musicians, and we talk about sports and athletes and celebrities, and we talk about the brainwash of how you're supposed to look and what is attractive and what is unattractive, and also how you're supposed to dress. You can't dress like that. Only corny people wear stuff like that. You won't have any sex appeal if you dress like that. Many Muslims, they are no different. They'll tell their daughters, you never get a husband dressing like that. No one will see you. No one will want a woman that is, those types of clothes. Unfortunately, you can't dress like a saint every day, son. I understand you want to go to the mosque, but not every single day, right? People look at you, they see your beard, they want to think you're a terrorist. So how people think and look at us has a huge impact, good or bad. So fasting pertains to a person's weight and a person's appearance, right? Okay, the movement of vegans and veganism. Many vegans, they only became vegans because of their outward appearance, because of their weight, or because of the supposed clarity of the skin. I can tell that you're a vegetarian by looking at your face. You don't have craters and wrinkles and other blemishes that carnivorous meat eaters have, right? I became a vegan because all other diets failed me, etc. Prolonged fasting, longevity. There's no sound clinical evidence that fasting can promote longevity in humans. If there was no sound clinical evidence, if there was no issue or no discussion, why would it even be what? Mentioned. Clearly proven that somebody claimed what? That fasting does what? Adds mileage to your life. That's a long discussion. Abstinence, right? And so on and so forth. Re-feeding syndrome. All right, Gallstone's political application. Very interesting. Not too many of us thought about it like this. Fasting is often used to make a political statement, to protest, to bring awareness to a cause. A hunger strike is a method of non-violent resistance in which participants fast as an act of political protest or to provoke feelings of guilt or to achieve a goal such as a policy change. A spiritual fast incorporates personal spiritual beliefs, desire to express personal principles, sometimes in the context of social injustice. All right, very interesting. Muslims, unfortunately, Allah Musta'an, forced in Guantanamo Bay. How did they force feed them? What were the ways they made them eat or ingest things into their system? La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. Irish hunger strike. Allahu Akbar. Bobby Sands. All right. Cesar Chavez. People fighting for their what? Self-determination. It's nothing what? It's nothing new. It's nothing new. Religious views. Yom Kippur. All of these different types of fasts in different religions. Muslims fast during the month of Ramadan each year. Obviously, this is what? It's an example of tunnel what? Tunnel vision. The only thing pertaining to fasting is Ramadan. But other faiths, how many days did they mention for them? But the Muslims just what? Ramadan. All right. And this is an example of how you can benefit from an article flawed. You know what's out there. You see what's out there, right? And alternative medicine, so on and so forth. Okay, Ramadan, right, is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, reserved by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, sawm, prayer, salah, reflection, and community, etc. All right, so that's just food for thought for us, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. After that, inshallah, I want to share with you guys some of the maqasid, some of the objectives of fasting, the spiritual objectives, The spiritual what? Objectives along with social objectives with regards to fasting. Bismillah. This is Ibn al-Qayyim Zad al-Ma'ad فصل في هديه. وسورها وسورها
ويذكرها بحال الأكباد الجائعة من المساجد ويضيق مجاري الشيطان من العبد تضييق مجاري الطعام والشراب ويحرص قوى الأعضاء عن استرسال حب الطبيعة فيما يضرها في معاشها ومعادها يسكن كل عضو منها كل قوة عن جماحه ويلتزم بلجامه. هو لجام المتقين وزنة المحاربين ورياضة الأبرار والمقربين. وهو لرب العالمين من بين سائر الأعمال. فإن الصائم لا يفعل شيئا وإنما يترك شهوته وطعامه وشرابه من أجل معبوده. وهو ترك محبوبات النفس وملذاتها إيثارا لمحبة الله ومرضاته. هو سر بين العبد وبين الله لا يطلع عليه سواه. العباد قد يطلعون منه على ترك المفطرات الظاهرة. وأما كونه ترك طعامه وشهوته من أجل معبوده فأمر لا يطلع عليه بشر وذلك حقيقة الصوم.
وذلك ايش؟ هذا ليس ترك الطعام والشراب وهذا سر لبه. تفضل.
وللصيام تأثير عجيب في حفظ الجوارح الظاهرة والقوى الباطنة وحمايتها عن التخليط الجالب لها المواد الفاسدة التي إذا استولت عليها أفسدتها، واستفراغ المواد الرديئة المانعة لها من صحتها. فالصوم يحفظ على القلب والجوارح صحتها ويعيد إليها ما استلبته منها أيدي الشهوات. وهو من أكبر العون على التقوى كما قال تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: الصوم جنة.
وأما من
اشتدت به شهوة النكاح ولا قدرة له عليه بالصيام وجعله وجاء هذه الشهوة. والمقصود أن صالح الصوم لما كانت مشكولة بالعقول السليمة والفطر المستقيمة شرعه الله لعباده رحمة بهم وإحسانا إليهم وحمية لهم وجنة. وكان هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيه أكمل هدي وأعظمه تحصيلا للمقصود وأسهله على النفوس. ولما كان فصل النفوس عن مألوفاتها وشهواتها من أشق الأمور وأصعبها عليها اخترته إلى وسط الإسلام بعد الهجرة. لما توفرت النفوس على التوحيد والصلاة وألفت أوامر القرآن فنقلت إليه بالتدريج.
Allah khair, ahsantum. Okay, so Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy upon him, his book we always suggest and try to share with you, Zadul Ma'ad, provisions for the hereafter. Fi hadi khair al-ibad. The full version in Arabic, the summarized in Arabic, the different versions of the translation in English, and I'm sure it's in other languages as well. A must-read book, must-have book, a book that should be in your house, should be read and looked into over and over and over again. One of the most comprehensive books of Islam is Zadul Ma'ad, let alone for the Sirah. People talk about the Sirah, it's nectar, this one, that one, this one. Zadul Ma'ad is one of, if not the best and most comprehensive books of Sirah. And obviously Islam Sirah, that's everything. From before he was born, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, until he left the companions. All right? So a book I highly encourage each and every one of you to read, to study, to have in your daily rotation. Let alone if you consider yourself to be a student of knowledge, scholar and an imam, it should be something you should be beyond familiar with. And that you're extremely familiar with the book, and you can quickly within seconds pick up a volume 3, page such and such, for class, for discussion, for fiqh debate, etc. A book. And subhanAllah, we know that Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy upon him, he wrote this tremendous book when he was on his way to Hajj, on the back of a camel. Maybe he was on the back of a donkey or horse. It wasn't in a comfortable library with air conditioning, right? All right. So with that being said, Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy upon him, I'm going to summarize everything. I'm reading from the English translation right now. He talks about the objectives of fasting, and he talks about the greatest aim, the highest aim, the greatest objective of fasting, which is you being aware of Allah, conscious of Allah, that Allah watches you and sees you, and you hiding and keeping these things secret purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fasting person in reality doesn't do anything, but instead abstains. And it's a secret between the slave and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody knows. Now, if you come to the masjid, burping or belching, right? Your breath smell like some food, that may be a what? A different story. You come to the masjid, you know, why are you indulging in the month of Ramadan if you're empty, if your stomach is empty? But in most cases, no one is going to what? No one's going to know whether you didn't, whether you had intercourse or whether you didn't. Nobody knows. It is the ultimate secret. The prayer the people have to see. The Hajj means the people are going to what? See. Right or wrong? It has to be given or received from what? Somebody. Now, hada, etc. But fasting is what? Totally off limits. Nobody sees it but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So he talks about some of the aims and objectives of fasting, which brings the soul and the body, the mind, happiness. By leaving off familiar things. Things that you're familiar with. Food, drink, women. You're familiar with your desires and your pleasures. So a period of time, you have to become sober, cold turkey. A period of time, you need to wean yourself of those familiar lusts and desires for a higher aim and for a higher objective. So fasting is going to benefit the soul. It's going to benefit the mind, clarity of the mind, discipline, self-control, awareness. And fasting, of course, is going to benefit the physical body. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. So I'm fasting, I'm worshiping Allah, and at the same time, I'm also want to, slim up a little bit. I'm going to go to the beach in the summer. I got to be in shape. I got to get my tan. I got to look good. It's haram to go to the beach. I can't get a tan and go to the beach. I can't, have the, that's haram too?
Big facts.
Yeah, everything's haram, Faisal, according to you? Yeah, everything's haram. I can't even look good. Al-Muhim, some people, they make losing weight the main objective of fasting and the work on the side, unfortunately. And the physical benefits of fasting, that's the aim and the objective. And the mental, spiritual is on the side. That's unfortunate. Spiritual aim and objective should be the what? The biggest. And those other things should come as on the side, right? Free benefits on the side. Fringe benefits, pros. Now? Okay, so Ibn al-Qayyim, he talks about the spirit, the body. He talks about sympathy and empathy for the poor, those who are always hungry. You feel hungry for a couple hours out the day. This person is hungry what? Every single day. Or this brother's miskin, he can't get married. He feels how you feel what? Every single day he's miskin. He can't get married. He's poor to get married. And you have a wife that you can't touch from Fajr to Maghrib. How you feel? Imagine if you felt like that what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every single day I'm by myself, I'm single. Right? So it makes you sympathize and empathize with Muslims that are less fortunate than you. Naam? All right. Khairan, inshallah. So the benefits of fasting, the aims and the objectives of fasting. وَلِلصِّيَامِ تَأْثِيرٌ عَجِيبٌ. There are wonders and marvels to fasting and the benefit that it has on your physical frame. All right. So you can go back to, inshallah ta'ala, Zadul Ma'ad. في هدي خير العباد. All right, let's move forward. Class that we start and hopefully finish bi'idhnillahi ta'ala before Ramadan. The book I'm going to introduce to each and every one of you is a very beneficial book for beginners fiqh. Alhamdulillah, we have an explanation of the book on the channel for free. The name of the book is called الدرر البهية في المسائل الفقهية. الدرر البهية في المسائل الفقهية للإمام المجدد محمد بن علي محمد الشوكاني المتوفى سنة 1250 للهجرة. It's a book in English. It is called, one of the names of one of its translations, there are several translations that are available, Crystalline Gems of Islamic Jurisprudence, Imam Ash-Shawkani. Crystalline Gems. several different translations and versions of the book that are available in English. All right? You can find all of them, I believe. Not all of them, excuse me. Some of them you can find at Dar es Salaam, and others, I believe it's a translation that was done by the brothers and sisters in the UK. More than one, if I'm not mistaken. Crystalline gems. Chakra crystals, huh? Allahu Akbar. You want to have your chakras open, Mahad? Inshallah. Are yours open or clogged? Tell you, crystals, huh? The gems. Al-Muhim, this is one version of the book. One translation is another, with some of the proof and evidence. It's translated by Dar es Salaam as well. Okay, let's move forward. Al-Muhim, you have the what's the word I'm looking for? You have the book. You have the book in Arabic, and then you have it in English. All right, laptop is being a little stubborn. All right, Tayyip. So, what have we covered so far in tonight's class? How many tiers did we discuss or cover? Which are, no, we didn't. That's not true. We just brought them up. But how many did we cover so far? Just one. The spiritual, the what? Spiritual. The aims and objectives, the inwards of fasting. We didn't get into the fiqh yet, nor did we get into a breakdown modern day what? So yeah, hit the light a second, please. All right, Tayyip. So let's move forward. And this is an extremely beneficial book, in my humble opinion, for every single student of knowledge. Especially if you're an introduction to fiqh, not based off of a particular madhab. We've talked about this book or spoke about this book, its importance, its virtue, its style, unique feature. Some points with regards to studying fiqh as a beginner, as a lay Muslim. What madhab do you start off with? How do you pick a madhab? Should you pick a madhab? Should you study a madhab? Should you follow a madhab? What's the most sound madhab? And what do you do as a beginner? How do I choose and pick which one I want to be or follow, right? We spoke about all of these things many, many years. And how we have different zealots and extremists with regards to madhabs for them or against them. Madhabs are everything. You go to Jahannam if you don't have a madhab. Basically, in 100 words, is what some people say. You can't go to Jannah without a madhab. In 100 words, if they don't say those brash words, you sit down and calculate what they're saying, basically saying that. And then there are those who, 100 words, you're going to go to Jahannam if you have a madhab. In 100 words, you're going to be upon this, you're going to oppose this, you're going to oppose that, and those who oppose, they're going to where? So reality, right? And there are only a few people who understand that there is a balanced approach with regards to the discussion of madhabs. This is virtue or virtues. These are their cons. This is virtue of this school, that school. No one can deny or reject the virtue of Imam Abu Hanifa. No fair person with regards to fiqh. Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote a beginner's book on Ilm al-Rijal called Taqrib al-Tahdhib, which is a summary of a summary of a summary concerning the narrators of the 6 books of Hadith. The 6 books of Hadith. Bukhari, Muslim, as we explained. Taqrib al-Tahdhib is a summary of a summary of a summary. All right? In this book, Hafidh ibn Hajar, and we mentioned this in class, Nur al-Hilu, We put up the PDF, remember? A few nights, if you brothers can remember. I shared it with you. All right? He talks about the narrators of Kutub al-Sitta, the 6 books of Hadith. And of course, among those narrators, he mentions Abu Hanifa, An-Nu'man ibn Thabit. And Imam ibn Hajar or Hafiz ibn Hajar, he didn't say anything negative about Abu Hanifa, even though there were many scholars of Hadith who did criticize him harshly, very harshly. Some of them said all types of things about him with regards to his status as a narrator and as a person of Hadith. We're not here to say that's right or wrong. Hafiz ibn Hajar, and he said, Faqihun mashhur. وسكت. فقيه مشهور. شوف الحكمة. فقيه مشهور. هل هناك أحد ينكر كونه فقيه مشهورا؟ ثقة، ضعيف، كذاب، مبتدع. فقيه لا يمكن أن ينكر هذا. He's a well-known jurist. That's it. He was a liar, he was truthful, he was good. He's a well-known jurist. Well-known jurist. His status in fiqh, his fame and infamy in fiqh is what? Well-known. So if a person comes in and wants to take even that away from Abu Hanifa, Malik, his virtue, the Imam of Darul Hijrah, what are the narrations saying about Darul Hijrah and how the people will travel on the backs of camels in Medina and Hijaz, etc., etc., etc. No one can deny that. Shafi'i, rahimahullah, his virtue, what he did, how he revolutionized things. Imam Ahmed, we need not to even mention about his virtues. So no one is going to just deny them of their virtues and of their followers and disciples unless he's going to go too far. But Imam Hanifa, rahimahullah, is the greatest Imam, absolutely. No one could compare to him, absolutely. If he doesn't act upon it, then it means the hadith is da'if and sukh. It's either abrogated or weak. If it wasn't, that's a bit, what? Imam Malik, if you don't follow Imam Malik, you're not upon the sunnah. If you don't follow Imam Malik's madhab, you're such and such and such and such. Imam Malik was the greatest Imam. No one disagreed with him. It's a bit what? Debate. Shafi'i is the greatest madhab. All madhabs are in debt to Shafi'i. Imam Ahmad's madhab is nothing but Shafi'i. It's a bit what? It's a bit much. Imam Ahmad's madhab is the strongest madhab. It's the madhab of the sunnah. It's the madhab of the people of the aqeedah of the salaf. If you don't, it's a bit what? It's a bit much. You have to follow madhab. You have to study a madhab. If not, you're going to be misled and misguided, etc. That's a bit what? It's a bit much. So balance and moderation and fairness and lack of bigotry and fanaticism for an imam or against an imam. Extreme love is just as bad as extreme hate and criticism. So most people today, they're here or there with regards to the imams, their followers, madhabs, and fiqh, right? It's a very long discussion on how to study fiqh, what books to study, what madhabs you should or shouldn't study, etc. Here is a very good book, in my opinion, for beginners fiqh, for someone who wants to look at a school that isn't one of the traditional orthodox schools. Khairan, inshallah. So, may Allah have mercy upon him. He says, Kitab al-Siyam. Kitab al-Siyam. All right, Mahad, you'll be our reader, Fadl. أو إكمال عدة
شعبان ويصل 30 يوما ما لم يظهر
هلال
شوال قبل إكمالها وإذا رآه أهل بلد لزم سائر البلاد الموافقة وعلى الصائم النية قبل الفجر.
طيب نور حلو. قال يجب
إتمام رمضان لرؤية هلاله من عدل أو إكمال عدة شعبان ويصوم 30 يوما ما لم يظهر هلال شوال إلى إكمالها وإذا رآه أهل بلد لزم البلاد الموافقة وعلى الصائم النية قبل الفجر.
Jazakallah khairan. All right, let's move forward.
Does it mention how the niyyah should be made?
Let's move forward. For beginners, we'll perhaps right now we're doing one thing and one thing only, and that is reading the method. Nothing more right now. Fadl Harun. Fasting the month of Ramadan becomes. So already is a what? Becomes obligatory.
Once the crescent of Ramadan is seen by a trustworthy Muslim, otherwise by completing the days, a total of 30 days without them.
Fadl.
A total of 30 days so long as the crescent of Shawwal isn't seen before its completion. If the inhabitants of a certain country see the crescent of Ramadan and begin their fast,
All other conforming.
countries must also follow suit. The individual fasting must make his intention to fast before fasting.
Okay, let's read that one more time. Kitab Siyam. يجب صيام شهر رمضان لرؤية هلاله من عدل أو إكمال عدة شعبان ويصوم 30 يوما ما لم يظهر هلال شوال قبل إكمالها وإذا أهل بلد لزم سائر البلاد الموافقة وعلى الصائم النية قبل الفجر. Before we move forward to translation, any explanation, you can see that the book is extremely what? There's just one part, one chapter, not just simple, but lean. There's no fat, no bone, no gristle, a pure lean cut. And that's perfect for a beginner. You don't need nothing extra on the side. Bismillah. Simple, easy, right to the point. As a beginning knowledge, as a lay Muslim who's trying to become more studious, you want the book, you want the explanation of the book, you want the class, which is the shortest and the simplest. And we've said this before, not the most famous sheikh, or not even the most sound and authentic, but that which is simplest and the shortest. Because the purpose of the beginner's manual, of the prime, is to prime you. That's all. It's to get your feet wet. It's to introduce you to the science. One of, or from among many widespread mistakes when it comes to dawah and teaching that we were victims of at one point in time, and many of you still are, and most of you probably will remain, is exhaustive, voluminous explanations for the beginner. And the different sheikh wars, personality wars for the beginner. This is the first time you're studying fiqh. Oh, you study with him. This is Sheikh Fulan's explanation is best. Brother Fulan, it's 500 pages. And this explanation here is in 10 pages. I may need those 5 pages one day. I'm sure the explanation is full of benefits, but that shouldn't be the first thing that I'm introduced to. The prototype is the most what? Simple, because it's a what? It's a prototype. And then you build and evolve and expand based off of the prototype. Breaking the ice, get your feet wet. So that's a widespread mistake when it comes to studying and teaching, is dealing with all types of details, khilaf, proofs, evidences, this and that, without even cracking the ice. So we see that the book is lean, mukhtasar, alfaz, muharrara. The wordings are concise, sharp cuts, which makes it perfect for you to memorize, for you to understand, for you to get down packed, and then move on to bigger and better as a student of knowledge. Now, okay, so once again, the author says, fasting the month of Ramadan is a virtue to the spirit, right? It gets you closer to Allah. It is a means of forgiveness, a means of rectifying your heart. It's a means of this and this. Wrong. Right now, we're only discussing what? Fiqh. What's ahkam. When I talk about no ruhaniyat, no tasawwuf, none of that stuff right now. No heart softening. We're dealing with what? Technicalities. Clear or not? After we're done, we're going to mix the technicalities with the spiritualities, mix them all together. But right now, we're forgetting about anything spiritual, we're talking about technical. Clear? All of time and attention is based off of what? The technical rulings. All right. Fasting the month of Ramadan becomes obligatory once the crescent of Ramadan is seen by a trustworthy Muslim. Otherwise, by completing the days of Sha'ban. That's bad. We don't need that. We don't want that. We don't want no parentheses now, okay? We only want the literal translation of the text. Nothing more. A total of 30 days are to be fasted, so as long as the crescent of Shawwal isn't seen before its completion. If the inhabitants of a country see the crescent of Ramadan, that's it. There's no need for that. All other conforming countries must follow suit. The individual fasting must make his intention before Fajr. That's it. All right, so the main rulings here in the first section of the book of fasting is, first and foremost, the ruling of what? Fasting in the month of Ramadan. That's number one. So as a beginner, I've learned in this class, fasting in the month of Ramadan is mandatory. Allah knows what's in my heart. Oh, I'm this type of in my country, or fard. What's the proof that it's mandatory? The teacher didn't explain it to me. My job as a student of knowledge, as a beginner, is to blindly follow my teacher. To take what he tells me at this stage. There's no how, what, when, and why. I learned from the class, from a trustworthy teacher, I have to fast the month of Ramadan. That's it. End of discussion. Not permanently, obviously, but in the what? In the beginning. Babies don't ask questions when you feed them, do they? They don't. But as they grow into times, they develop different tastes, allergies. They develop an appetite. They want to eat a lot. They don't want to eat, etc. But at a young age, it's in the full trust of the parent and the guardian. Nothing else. You can feed the baby poison. The baby wouldn't know. Because the baby does what? It trusts the parent. As you get older, stronger, smarter, you say, I don't want to eat this. I don't like the way this tastes or smells. That's how you study successfully. If you start off from day one, what's the dalil? Yeah, Sheikh. What does Fulan say? Or I read that Ibn Uthaymeen said such and such. And brother Fulan from this masjid, he told me such and such. Know for sure that you're going to stop studying. You're going to quit studying. You are not going to be successful if you start off like that from day one. Moving forward. So that's the first ruling that we benefited from the book. Fasting is a must in the month of Ramadan. Number two, how and when does fasting become obligatory in the month of Ramadan? By two things. Only two things the author mentions. لِرُؤْيَةِ هِلَالِهِ مِنْ عَدْلٍ is when a trustworthy, شخص واحد, one trustworthy person, adl, we also studied and took in Mahad. نعم أولها الصحيح ولم يشذ يرويه من عدل. ما هي شروط العدالة؟ ما هي صفات الراوي العدل؟ أن يكون من بالغا عاقلا etc. He has to be Muslim, he has to be sane, he has to be of age, he has to be pious, righteous upon the sunnah, he has to stay away from weird, peculiar things in the culture, etc. We explained all of that. So if one Muslim who has these qualities sees the moon or the new moon phase, is there more than one moon or just one moon with different phases? Which one? One moon with different phases. You sure about that? Saad, how many moons are there? Just one. But why do the Muslims say we've sighted the new moon? The new moon has been sighted. No one says the new moon phase. Or am I making this up? It's always the new what? So there's an old moon and a new moon. Right? Now, or it's a specific moon just to Ramadan. He says, لِهِلَالِ Ramadan, the crescent of Ramadan, when the moon is in that phase and one righteous sees it, then this is one of the ways that the month of Ramadan commences. Clear. What's the proof for that? What's the evidence for that? What do the other scholars and madhab say about that? None of that is on the table right now. أو إكمال عدة شعبان, and or second way that we know that the month of Ramadan has commenced is when the previous month is over. And the previous month cannot be more than 30 days. And the previous month can be less than 29 days. The lunar month is only 29 or 30. No leap year, etc. So once Sha'ban is done, Ramadan is automatically what? Come in. This is simple and basic, but if you really look at it, understanding it properly, it will save you from a lot of confusion of the moon wars and the moon sighting wars. Saudi, Turkey, Peru. I'm not going to take what Saudi says. I'm going with what they said in Peru. Or Dominican Republic. Right? I'm going DR. But I'm not taking what they say in Mecca though. Maybe, maybe not. Pakistan, India, they saw it. South Africa Moon Sighting Committee, they saw it. Al-Muhim, the month cannot be more than 30 days. So once Sha'ban has reached its peak, Ramadan automatically comes. Good weather, bad weather, etc. All right. How long is the month of Ramadan fasted? وَيُصُومُ 30 يَوْمًا. Starts off with the maximum, not the minimum. And as you must fast for 30 days unless we cited the crescent for Shawwal. At that point, we stop fasting even if it's only 29. وَإِذَا رَآهُ أَهْلُ بَلَدٍ لَزِمَ سَائِرَ الْبِلَادِ الْمُوفَقَةِ. And when the people or the inhabitants of one land have confirmed that the crescent has been spotted, all other cities, towns, countries, or hemispheres that share the same demographic or direction or, I didn't say time zone. Al-Muhim, for argument's sake, no problem. Time, he says, no problem. They must all what? Fast as well. So based off of this, if Saudi says that they see the moon, the people of America, what? Are not obliged to what? To fast. They aren't what? They aren't obliged. They can fast, they may, but they aren't what? Obliged. Why not? Because Saudi Arabia and America are what? North America. It's not the same what? Mumkin. Maybe. Al-Muhim Tawadi, right now it's nighttime, there is what? Clear or not? The people of Mecca, which direction do they use to pray? Which direction do we use to pray in Bayonne? Clear or not? Last but not least, وَعَلَى الصَّائِمِ النِّيَّةُ قَبْلَ الْفَجْرِ. And it is upon the one who wants to fast to make his or her niyyah before Fajr. So if you made your intention, if you woke up late, you missed Fajr, and you woke late, you could not what? Based off of this, you couldn't fast. Your fast is invalid. It's not valid. You must have made intention what? Before Fajr. For the entire month or for each and every single day. Those details are afterwards. They're what? Afterwards. So get these points down packed. Memorize these points. Then you learn the next level of studying. Maybe one proof for them. Maybe one or two details for them. So on and so forth. So far, we see from this book, like many books, if not all books of fiqh, to practice many Islamic practices, you have to be learned and versed of what? Worldly, secular practices. So in order to implement the spiritual injunctions, the religious injunctions, you must know some basic things about the dunya, such as The moon. Waning and waxing. How many phases of the moon are there, Taha? What are they? How many phases? Yes, that's the question. I said nothing about the sun. How many phases does the moon? How many faces can I see in the sky? Remember your little kid? Someone told you the moon like a face, and it still looks like a face to this day. Which are? What are they? Come on, guys. This is common sense. A freebie. Full moon. Wolf. That's basic, simple. You can't lose by putting in full moon. That's an automatic point. It's a freebie. Nah? Full moon. Everybody knows that. Full moon. It's a full moon tonight. Half moon. Simple. Okay. So in order to understand the Islamic things and to practice them, you need to know a little bit about what? What's the difference between lunar and solar? Right? The calendars. The Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar, right? Why is the Gregorian calendar based off of the sun? Who used the lunar calendar besides the Arabs? Was it the Iranians? The ancient Aryans? Etc., etc., etc. Basic stuff. What? Not detail, but what? Basics. Nah? All right. Khair, inshallah. Moving forward, he then talks about وَيَبْتُلُ or يَبْتُلُ things which break the fast. We'll stop here tonight. We've taken a lot of information. All right? Maybe too much. Jazakumullah khairan for your time, for your attention, for your respect. Are there any questions? We'll try to take them down. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All right.